Hi, so this is my second installment. There'll be quite a few more. The first one was on 1st of October, the month of Mary has begun. Our Lady of Fatima visited the earth between between May and October 1917. And 4th October, that is today, marks the beginning of the novena of Our Lady of Fatima, which concludes on 13th. That is the date on which uh, her final apparition happened and the miracle of the sun took place in Fatima, Portugal. It was witnessed by about 70,000 people, right? 70,000 people, quite a lot of people. They were out there in the rain with their umbrellas and trench coats, and all of a sudden it stopped raining and they were completely dry. That was another part of the miracle. The secular press were there, they reported it to the astonishment of everybody all around the world. That's today, 4th October, is the beginning of the novena. Today is also the 1 year anniversary of the abominable idolatrous pacha worship of Pachamama, the idol that happened in the Vatican gardens last year in the Amazon Senate on the opening day. That was the day that woke me up. Up till that point of time, I was, defending everything in the Vatican. I had not much of a clue what was going on. As of June 23rd, it's a matter of record on my blog. I was defending the new Our Father, the new wordings to the Our Father, thinking that it was just a translation. Failing to ask myself, how could the translation have been wrong for 2000 years? There I was, 4th of October, looking at this worship and thinking, what on earth is going on? Around the time, I'd never heard of traditional Catholics or traditional movement or anything of that sort. I'm in the novice order. We've never had Latin Mass. I always thought that I was attending Latin Mass in English because we're in the Latin Rite so I never thought of extraordinary form, ordinary form. I knew none of those things. So there I was looking at the worship and people bowing down before this idol. Pope Francis, who calls himself Pope, of course, everybody was there. The cardinals were there. Pretty crazy. So that began my journey, and now here I am, right? So what I want to talk about today is the main thing is humility, because I'm a very proud person by nature. I don't think I should say very proud, but I'm proud by nature, primarily proud. Um, I don't. Humility is not my first nature, right? At least in the way I express myself. And so it's a good day today to begin with a little testimony. I received a fridge yesterday. I didn't pay for it. It was free, sent to us from my wife's uncle in Seattle. Brand new fridge. And that reminds me of all the blessings I received this year. We received a car and a bike, virtually brand new. The car was barely used. You need a bike in Pune, India. The city I live in is the capital of bike capital in India. And the home we live in is also a gift. I mean, it's my mom and dad who bought two homes side by side. And after we returned from Delhi, the capital of India, where we lived until last year, this home was just waiting for us, and so it's a gift. Uh, this camera that I'm using is a gift along with another camera. This is a Sony mirrorless. That one is the Canon Mark Mark 4, so 5D Mark 4, very expensive cameras, along with the tripod and all the equipment. It costs about 6 lakh rupees, so that's about $8,000. Yeah, more than $8,000, and it's free. So I have to remember my blessings, because God has been very gracious to me, and I cannot tend towards pride but only humility, because I've done nothing to earn any of these things. And that takes me to Our Lady, of course, who's the utter example of humility, as demonstrated when she obeyed God and conducted the apparitions and drew us all to realize that heaven is a reality, hell is a reality, and we must choose, and we must pray for the souls, lost souls, and also fast. And I was putting my son to sleep yesterday when this occurred to me. His name is William, and I was saying sleep now, and he was romping about in his cot. He didn't want to listen, and I was just thinking of how obedient and humble Mary is, because when your father says something, you listen, right? Because you must honor your father. But what if your spouse tells you, to do something? If you're a woman, submit to your husband, and if you're a husband, love your wife. So you do it out of love or obedience. And if your son asks you, your daughter asks you, for an egg, you don't give him a scorpion, or bread, you don't give him a stone. So in a similar way, when God the Father, that is Our Lady's Father, and God the Spouse, the Holy Spirit, and her spouse, of course, and God the Son, Jesus Christ, her Son, when they ask her, who is the daughter, spouse, and mother of God, to do something, she obeys, and it's spectacular, the obedience that she displays, and her humility is an example to us all. So I was just thinking about that, and how the Fatima apparitions were They centered around the consecration of Russia as an event. When in 1917 Russia didn't exist as a nation, the revolution hadn't yet happened, and it was quite inconceivable how Russia could ever spread its errors. Nobody really knew what those errors were. Communism was yet to take the kind of shape that it took in the ensuing decades. So we had to consecrate Russia to her Immaculate Heart. It was not done till date as it should be done. And the peace that was promised after that has not come because they have not done it in that way. But they've tried their own methods of arriving at peace. So in my own experience, what I have done is I had prayed for this mass, right? Because I'd heard of the traditional movement in the mass, and I prayed one day for the mass to come to India, and I said, Lord, I have a year, if you could just bring this about in a year. And I got an answer the very next day. I went for confession, and the priest heard me. I was asking him if he could help me prepare an altar in my home for whenever a mass would happen. And he said, oh, the Latin community is right here, they'll be here after you, why don't you wait? And I thought they were from Europe, so I said, I don't want to impose. But he was like, no, stay on. And I stayed on and discovered they're from India like me. They'd known about the pacha worship, they knew about this for a long time, and they were really way ahead of me because I was just getting started, barely, a month or two into it. And they were in it for some years. And there were just three people, a husband, wife, and a friend of theirs. And I was the fourth, and then there was the priest, a novice sort of priest. Right, and as things progressed, I discovered more and more about the apostasy in Rome. It goes way back. I found out through Chiesa Viva, a magazine run by Father Luigi Villa, the late Father Luigi Villa, whose vocation was discerned by Padre Pio, and he then got the papal mandate from Pius XII. He was given two mentors, Cardinal Ottaviani and Cardinal Palazzini, who exposed to him quite a lot of the Freemason symbols, the secrets, their degrees, not just the degrees of initiation, but also angles, some of which you will see on Paul VI's mother's tomb. He himself designed the Freemason symbols there. So I discovered this, and it was new to me. I started to dig further, and I discovered something went awfully wrong in the 1958 conclave. When Cardinal Sede was elected, he took the lineal title of Gregory XVII. And all of these are facts and inescapable facts. And it was shocking for me because I never heard of Gregory XVII, never heard of Cardinal Sede. Up till recently, I had not even heard of Pius XII, I never heard of a Pius, in fact. For me, Pius was some saint. So this was all new to me. And when I looked at the facts, and I started to dig further. And that's when I started to warm up to sedevacantism. Until that point of time, I really hated it. I avoided it like the plague. If you see my last video, it's called My Name is Dominic Briganza, and I'm a closet sedevacantist. In that, you see that I avoided this position for a very long time. But I was what people might call a benevacantist because I had seen Benedict XVI. His resignation was invalid by 4 or 5 canons, the text of it, and he's a Latinist, and so his Latin can't be off. It has to be by design, and that invalidates your papacy when you look at those violations of canon law. But also, if he was coerced, as most people believe he was, then his resignation is definitely invalid even without having a written form. So I took refuge in that, Benedict is Pope. But now I don't believe that anymore. Like I said in the last video, on account of his manifest heresy, he he denies the historicity of the resurrection. He did this once in a published work in 1968 as a cardinal. He did that again in 2007 as a self-styled Pope or a putative Pope. That's a better term. Putative just means, alleged Pope that everybody believes to be true, almost everybody. So that's where I am right now. I want to just expose some of the things that I've discovered over time and the journey that I'm on, so that we begin to pray and fast for the right cause. Today, we're all locked up in our homes. There's a reason for that, and we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right, but against very principalities and power. So we need to pray and fast because the exorcism that is due on Rome, on the Vatican, is of a very, very high nature because there's an extreme amount of diabolical activity happening there on account also of the pacha worship. But this goes way back. It goes back to John the 23rd when he called the Second Vatican Council opened, and Paul VI then brought in the Protestants. He brought in the communists. They did the Pact of Myths just I think some time prior, maybe a year or two prior to the council. And it's a complete apostasy as prophesied by Our Lady also. So we need to pray and fast and remain humble because there's no way we can bring people to the truth if we're proud. That's just not the way God works, because he resists the proud but he's attracted to the humble. So that's my request today, mostly to myself actually, to remain humble as I continue the series. I hope you guys will stay with me. I'll see you.